Coming up on A Girl and a Gun, David Gulpilil wins at Cannes, so we thought we'd take this opportunity to have a bit of a retrospective on his career.
A Girl and a Gun, recorded 11th of June 2014, episode 37. Gulpilil can do.
All you need to make a movie is a girl and a gun. Come along and join the party. I'm still at the sun.
Hello, welcome to A Girl and a Gun, the show for filmmakers and content creators. I'm Phil Moore, and today I'm joined on the couch by erstwhile host Fizz Waters. Hey Fizz.
Hello.
You are today our film enthusiast.
Yes, indeed.
So we're going to talk, in fact, we're going to talk a bit about some breaking news that happened recently, and that's going to lead us into a whole interesting retrospective. So let's look at the breaking news. Breaking news I'm talking about, in fact, is about 4 weeks ago, as we record this, David Gulpilil, Australian actor, Australian Aboriginal actor, won Best Actor at Cannes.
Yes.
For his film, I don't have the thing in front of me, Charlie's Country, that's thank you very much. But before we talk about this, the reason he ended up making this film with Rolf de Heer is because a couple of years ago he was arrested for assaulting his wife. He ended up spending 5 months in jail. So let's just show that briefly so you can see what I'm talking about.
Prominent Indigenous actor David Gulpilil has been sentenced to a year's jail after pleading guilty to assaulting his wife. The Darwin Magistrates Court said Gulpilil will have the sentence suspended after serving 5 months in prison. His wife, Miriam Ashley, suffered a fractured arm when Gulpilil hit her with a broom last year, but she says she doesn't want him to go to jail.
No. I want him to go back home with me. We got big more painting.
Gulpilil has appeared in many Australian films, including Storm Boy, The Tracker and Crocodile Dundee.
You can see there, they actually showed us a little clip of Storm Boy.
Yes, that was on the news there, wasn't it?
Which was one of his earlier films, but the first film he did, in fact, was Walkabout.
Yeah, Walkabout.
Which for Nicholas Roeg. Do you remember seeing that?
Oh, yeah.
Because that was a big deal in England, I think.
Oh, absolutely. That was like the first Australian film to wake British audiences.
Right.
Even though it wasn't the first Australian film by
even
any
English
means.
director.
And yes, yes, absolutely. Well, that's my memory of it, was everybody talked about Walkabout. Yeah,
So Walkabout, 1971, Nicholas Roeg film. And it was a big deal at the time. A very good film still to this day.
Absolutely,
there it is, and Jenny Agutter was the English star of that. And Gulpilil as a young man, as the Aboriginal boy that basically took these two English kids under his wing to look after them as they were stranded in the bush. Well, I think we have a little clip of that as well, so let's show a little bit of Walkabout if we can. That's when they first meet him in the film. His introduction to the cinema audience.
Gorgeous little boy as well.
1971, and of course it was controversial because there's a budding romance between him and the Jenny Agutter character in it as
in
well.
those days that
wasn't looked upon well. But that started his career as our first major starring, Indigenous actor. And from that he went on to do a lot of television. He was in the TV series Boney and Homicide and Rush, if you remember any of these. Did any of these get to
Rush,
England?
my brother was in Rush, of course.
Well, your brother is, of course.
John Waters.
Who was one of the stars of Rush, indeed. Films like Walkabout and Storm Boy was their first introduction to Aboriginal culture.
Yes, yes.
So that was the first film you saw, I think.
Yes, it was. And I just, I've been a huge fan of Gulpilil ever since, because he's just stunning. He doesn't have to act almost. You would never see him acting,
that's the thing,
would
he's
you?
never trained as an actor or anything like that.
And he can just deliver the goods. I think he's fantastic.
Just very natural,
Look,
he went on. From that, he went on to Peter Weir's Last Wave. Which was quite a hit in this country at the time it was made, and one of the early films that launched Peter Weir's career, in fact. Most famously, and I'm just jumping through titles here, most famously Crocodile Dundee.
Of course,
He was almost sending up his own character
he was,
by the time he got to that. There he is. That's Paul Hogan, obviously, in Crocodile Dundee. We couldn't find a picture of Gulpilil in that film.
Oh, right.
I remember him in a film. There's a friend of mine did a film called Dark Age. I don't think we got a picture for this one.
Right.
Which Gulpilil was in. Anytime you needed an Aboriginal actor, certainly through the 60s into the 70s, there wasn't much else to choose from.
No, he
was it.
And I just love the way he comes in, does all his films and everything, then he goes back and lives
He's
a
living
traditional
in
life,
Arnhem
which is
Land, up Northern
so
Territory.
he's got a lot of knowledge about everything, really.
Which makes it difficult for filmmakers sometimes to get him on set and keep him on set.
Try and find him, yeah.
Trying to find him to offer him a role.
It's lovely. It's a whole different mindset from the Indigenous people. They live in one way, and you want them to do a gig, they might not want to do it.
Well, that's the irony.
You know?
After having done all of these films that we've already spoken about, you think it's like, okay, I'm a movie actor now, I'm a movie star, I can... But, you know, he never
It doesn't
bought
really
into
mean that
culture.
much to him, I don't think. No.
I mean, Phil Noyce made a point of getting him into Rabbit Proof Fence.
Yes.
For example, you know, being an iconic Australian actor, there's Rabbit Proof Fence there.
Yes.
But most of these films, admittedly, since his early days in Walkabout, most of these films he's not the star.
No.
He's almost like the token Aboriginal.
Yes,
Even
I
if he's
know,
making
it's
fun of
just-
himself as being such, like he
Yes,
does in Crocodile
yes.
Dundee. Then you've got films like Australia,
Yeah.
the Baz Luhrmann film.
Oh, what's the time? We must
Well,
dash
he's being
now.
the token Aboriginal again, kind of there. Which touches on some of the same area as Rabbit Proof Fence, like the
Yes.
Stolen Generation.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's more, we'll just quickly...
It's sort of, ooh, did that happen? No.
It
yeah.
wasn't the focus of the story, though, admittedly.
No, it wasn't. No, that's true.
More recently, he did a film called Satellite Boy, but then, now, of course, he got arrested, as we mentioned, and Charlie's Country,
Yes.
another Rolf de Heer film. He does his best to work with Rolf.
Right, yeah.
Winning this Can Award. you know,
Fantastic.
for Best Actor.
I think that's just fantastic. I'm,
No,
I'm so thrilled for him.
No, absolutely. It's
He probably
long
doesn't give a
overdue.
tinker's cuss, actually. He's probably not that bothered at all.
He may not be that bothered at all, but I think it's well deserved.
Well done, Gulpilil.
But given, okay, that's Gulpilil in a nutshell. We
Yes.
zip through his career a bit there. But he's not the only Indigenous actor.
No.
In fact, you go back before then, before Walkabout, the first film that I can think of that really touched on this kind of stuff was Jeddah. Do you remember Jeddah?
Yes, yeah. Well, I was watching the documentary on...
Charles Chevelle?
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
director,
and
producer, yeah.
yes, and saw they showed quite a bit of it, and I think I just found that was fascinating, and there was a beautiful girl in it.
It's basically the story of kind of a stolen generation
Yes.
girl who became maid to the white family, and they kind of adopted her. But then there's this clash of cultures when she meets a native Aboriginal boy that she falls in love with, and should she be the white domestic or should she be
Yes.
join her Aboriginal
Yes.
culture? Now this is 1950s. I'm trying to find out when this was made. Jeddah the Uncivilized is otherwise called. 1955 it was made.
Oh, right, yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
we've got a little clip of it here. Let's have a look. That wasn't the greatest quality, but that film in widescreen has been restored.
Yes.
Gorgeous
Yes.
cinematography in that. It's a very well made film, in fact.
Yeah.
And it's actually a very dramatic film. It's good acting. It's a really good film. Another film that shows a bit of the lighter side of it is Brand New Day.
Yes, of course.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
Which was a stage musical originally.
Yes, that's right.
And they did a film recently. There's a poster for it there, which is just a fun show.
I loved that, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a clip of that one, unfortunately.
No.
What we do have, though, more recently, is The Sapphires.
Oh, yes.
You seen that one?
No,
You
do you
missed
know
that
what?
one.
I still haven't seen it. I
This
can't
one we've
believe
got to
it.
see. It's very much a traditional musical in a sense.
Yes.
Kind of like a girl group like the Supremes or whatever
Yes.
coming up and performing
it's-
for the troops.
I've
in
heard some of
Vietnam
the-
and things like that.
yes,
It's a
I've heard
wonderful
some of the
film.
tracks.
I think we've got a little clip of that, so let's show that.
Hey! Get out of my life, you horrible little gobshites!
Well, today I started loving
That wasn't terrible.
you.
Do you sing anything other than that country and western shite?
Sorry, what's wrong with country and western, mate?
Oh,
And I'm right back.
it's just wrong.
Well, what do you think we should sing?
1, 2, 3. Okay, wrong hands, girls. Wrong hands.
So there's a bit of that. Do you remember the Commitments?
Yeah,
The film
yes.
Commitments? It's kind of like that.
Yes, that reminds me of that.
Yeah, you know,
Amazing.
it's just your underdog story of a band that rise to fame, that kind of
Yes,
thing.
yes,
But
and
it's just a
make
good,
it
fun,
again.
traditional musical.
Yep.
But you look at something like Sapphires and how far we've come, I think.
Yes.
in telling different kinds of Indigenous stories.
Yes, yes, and I still think there's room for plenty more.
Well, we still have to properly tell the Stolen Generation story, I think.
Yes.
Rabbit Proof Fence touched on it.
To be done properly.
Did it nicely, but there's still a lot more there. And I know there's stories of the early settlement days and what went on there. That there's a lot of stories there that have yet to be told from that point of view.
Yes.
Properly.
I read a book by Ruby Langford Guinevere, and she sadly has now passed away. But I spoke to her about it and said, I would love to make a film of your book. It was called Don't Take Your Love to Town. One day I'll do it. I'm sorry, Ruby, I haven't done it yet, but we'll get there because it's a beautiful story. She's a woman, she lives out, she's born in Casino, she's born in the missions, she goes out, she sort of survived in the bush. She was building fences and things like that, and then she came back. She lived town, bush.
So this is early last century?
No, she's only just passed away at sort of, a few years ago now. So it's about sort of 60s.
Okay.
She would have been, and it's a fantastic book anyway.
Well, yeah. So there's lots of stories there.
Yeah.
There's stories up in my region that we've been hearing tell about.
Yes.
We should talk about that one if you're looking for a film.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I want to do a film around that
Cool.
kind of thing, dealing with Indigenous issues. In fact.
Yes.
It'd be great to see some other kind of stories told. So this episode was built around the breaking news of Gulpilil winning that award. So we thought we'd take the opportunity and have a bit of retrospective on his career and therefore Indigenous actors in Australian film generally. We've only scratched the surface. We've just skittered through a few titles there, I know.
Yeah.
And getting a bit of an English perspective on this and how that's affected people internationally.
Yes.
But thank you all for watching. Hopefully next episode we'll have more news that we can talk about. But for now, thank you very much, Fizz, for
thank you,
chatting
Phil.
with me. Thank you all for watching. If you want to reach us, you can email us veronica@agirlandagun.tv, and you can tweet us @agirlandagun. For now, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. That's it.